Wonderful. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Today, I have the immense pleasure of interviewing Kathleen Gage. Kathleen is the no-nonsense, common sense online marketing strategist, speaker, author, product creation specialist, and owner of Power Up for Profits. Kathleen is known for cutting through the fluff. You guys know I love that. I hate fluff. And this is perfect because I hate fluff and I've been on a tear against it. I met Kathleen at Katarina Rando's event a few weeks ago, and she shared with our group that she did her first full marathon. Let me clarify that, at age 61. I thought, now she totally personifies what I'm talking about when I talk about getting better with time, aging better, and being fiercely fit as a lifestyle. So I definitely wanted to interview her and learn about what keeps her motivated and thriving in life. So with that being said, can you share with us what it means for you to thrive in life?
Well, what it means to thrive in life is just to really enjoy life. And the older I get, to realize that a lot of what I placed importance on early on really is not that important. That, if I've got my health, I've got everything. Because with your health, you can figure out all the other stuff that goes on in life. Without your health, it's pretty difficult. I actually was my mom's caretaker the last couple of years of her life, and very unhealthy woman. She was in the hospital more than she was out of the hospital. And I think during that time, it made me realize how valuable taking care of ourselves really is. And the thing is during the time I was taking care of my mom, I let my health go by the wayside. I actually gained a lot of weight. I was eating a lot of sugar. I was not exercising. And I was using my mom's health as the reason, taking care of her as the reason not to do these things. And what I know to be true is it's all about accountability. It's all about what we place the importance on for what we want to accomplish in our lives. So really, it's just about living a quality of life that we have to give to ourselves before anybody else can give it to us.
That's absolutely right. And putting yourself back on the list. I know several caretakers, and as you say, they put other people first and without taking care of themselves. So what advice would you give to caretakers now, knowing what you know now? What advice would you give to caretakers?
Well, it really goes back to the very overused analogy of like when you're on a plane and they say, if you need the oxygen, take the oxygen first before you give it to anybody else. And it's so true. Even though that's somewhat of an overused story, just like the starfish throwing the starfish into the ocean and you saved one, is a little overused, but there's a very important message in that you have to take care of yourself first before you can really fully serve the other people. And if I were to do it over again, I would have taken much better care of myself, because what I found was by not taking care of myself, by gaining an excessive amount, I was about 40 pounds heavier than I am right now. Mm-hmm. And by gaining that weight, I was tired. I wasn't able to fully be there for my mom at the level that I could have been, even though I was very much there for her, but just being exhausted all the time. That was the big one. And when you're going through the loss of a parent or the loss of a loved one and you're the primary caretaker, a lot of emotions come up, and food can be a real determining factor in how much our moods go up and down. As much as many people would like to deny that, mm-hmm. What we put in our body has a direct relationship to how we perceive things and how we respond to things. So I would say the number one tip is take care of yourself and really eat right, drink plenty of water, get rest if possible. And it's not always possible when you're getting called by the hospital at 3 o'clock in the morning that, they're going to be doing an emergency surgery. You hop out of bed and you go down to the hospital, or if you're already there, you just do what needs to be done. But the more that you can take care of yourself, the better off you're going to be.
That's wonderful. And that's something I think that a lot of people need to hear without guilt and all of that good stuff.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I know you have a group on Facebook called Passion for Thriving. Where do you get your passion from?
One is, it's interesting that you asked that question, because at one point in my life, through some really bad choices I made, and it had to do with drugs and alcohol, I've been sober for many, many years, over 3 decades now. and which means I'm getting old. But through those choices, I actually ended up homeless at one point. And
Oh,
that was at a period in my life where nothing seemed to work. I couldn't make good decisions. And I really believe that where my passion comes from is realizing I've been given another chance.
oh,
And I can't say it's been given a second chance, because I think we're given many chances in life, and it's what we do with it. But mine has to do with knowing what it's like not to feel empowered, knowing what it's like to not have control, knowing what it's like to be in the grips of an addiction, which for me, my addiction was, what do you have? I'll take it. And that's what'll get me high. When people used to say, what was your drug of choice? And it was like, well, what do you have? And it was really that bad for me. And I was a blackout drinker. There was not a day that went by that I wasn't high. And today I don't have to live like that. And so for me, it's knowing that by the grace of God, I came out of that, if you will, that living hell. And I have better opportunities today simply by being in the moment and realizing that it's all based on choices, and it's based on the actions that I take.
that's that is so powerful. See, I didn't even know this part of your story, but this is yeah, this is that where that authenticity comes from, in the no fluff zone, right? Because when you've gone through, an actual hell and can live to tell the story, there's no time for fluff.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is I can take the principles of what I've learned through getting sober and 12-step programs, and having a sponsor and having more than one sponsor through my 33 years now. You can apply that to business. You can apply that to health. You can apply that to your finances, where there are certain outcomes we get in life. And many times, if we just look at the trail of actions that we took that got us to where we're at, we can see that going back a few months or a few years, that was the catalyst for what we're experiencing today. And it always amazes me when people go, well, how did this happen? And it's like, well, let's take an inventory. Let's really look at it. And I do that with my clients. It's like with my clients, I don't consider myself a coach. I'm more of a strategist. And I will help them to strategize what they need to do in their business. What they do with that is completely up to them. It's, I can only give them the information. I can't force them to do it.
Absolutely. And so, what would you say to someone who feels as if they have lost their passion for life, or if they're in that rock bottom moment?
Wow. If you're in a rock bottom moment, sometimes the only thing you can do is just make it through the day. Quite seriously. I mean, there are things in life that happen that are pretty darn tough. And, more and more every day, we see that in the world, where there are situations that occur and you're just going, how can somebody get through this? And yet, once you get through that dark side of what's going on, I think that getting down to the basics of gratitude. And in some ways, it's not always easy to be grateful for what we have. I remember early on when I did get sober, and I had a sponsor who said, you need to start looking at what you have to be grateful for. And I said, I don't have anything to be grateful for. And she said, well, first of all, you're really arrogant for having that belief. She goes, you have a lot to be grateful for. Do you have a roof over your head? I said, yes, but. She goes, do you have food in the refrigerator? I said, yes, but. Do you have a bed to sleep in? Yes, but. And everything was a but. And she goes, the only but you need is the butt that you're sitting on. She goes, that's the only but you need in your life. Because the reality is that even though at that time the place I was living in was about 300 square feet, the refrigerator had very little food in it. I had a roof, I had a refrigerator, I had a bed to sleep in. And she said, start looking at the basics of what you do have and expand from there. She goes, do you have your arms? Do you have your legs? Do you have your eyes? And so sometimes it's a matter of getting into really basic stuff. And I think what happens is we start buying into the hype that we should be something that we're not, instead of like, just get down to the very basics of life and start from there and then grow from there. Another really great way to get into a place of having joy and passion in your life is to serve other people. If you're feeling like you don't have anything, go find somebody and help them out. Go find a homeless person and buy them a meal. Go find an elderly person who might need their house cleaned, but really get into that place of service, because when you bring yourself to the level of service, all of a sudden there's a whole different perspective on what's going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how can we continue to be passionate as we get older?
Good drugs. No, just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. What can I say? No. One is exercise. As a matter of fact,
Yes.
because I knew we'd be doing this today, it was raining out this morning, and I had just done a 10K a couple of days ago in 28-degree weather. And so, you really have to push yourself when you're running in 28-degree weather. And this morning I thought, okay, if I'm going to be having this conversation with you today, I better walk my talk. And so really one of the ways to have more passion is to get out and exercise. Another way is to write a gratitude list on a daily basis. I'm reading a book, and actually it's more of a workbook. It's 40 Days to Abundance, I think it is, by, gosh, I'm drawing a blank on who the author is, John Randall, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And every day you have an exercise where you take a paragraph from the book, and that's the affirmation for the day. And then you write what your perspective around that affirmation is. And basically it's about turning your life over to God. Regardless of what one's religious belief is, I do believe that if we have a higher power in our life, whether it be God, universe, source, and we're willing to give some authority to that higher power to guide us, and to have a connection, we tend to have more passion in our life. So I think another way would be to see who you're surrounding yourself with. It's very important who you surround yourself with. If somebody, let's say somebody's in a relationship and they want a good relationship, if you hang out with people who do not respect their spouses, if they are out there running and gunning and cheating, well, you're going to believe that that's okay. If you really want a good relationship, surround yourself with people who have respect for their relationships. Surround yourself with people who take care of their spouses and they love them and they enjoy being with them. And then you will find that that's a good model to emulate. It's the same in business. If you want a successful business, you need to surround yourself with people who are going to raise you up. And like when we were at Katarina's event, mm-hmm. I loved the people that I met there. It was such an amazing event. And I just felt like it was a great environment to enhance the knowledge. I've been a professional speaker for 22 years, and so I didn't necessarily go to learn the basics. But what I found was by being around everybody who was there, it actually sparked something in me that I didn't even realize needed to be sparked. And it was just being around people who were enthusiastic to learn great information from a really good teacher.
Right, because some of us, like myself, had no clue that speaking was even the way to, well, we were just there. This was our first thing, and we were just kind of like, oh, wow, this really could be something. And so,
it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it was great. And it was great that all people of all levels were there, people who are really thriving businesses and people like myself who are just starting out and trying to learn what to do. So I thought, I totally agree. The masterminding and getting around like-minded people can really enhance your enthusiasm for life. And this is kind of along the same lines, but what advice do you have specifically to people who feel like they can no longer thrive because they are too old and feel like life has passed them by?
Oh, here's what I'd say to them. Get over it. And
yes! yes.
It really is in some ways about getting over it, because I'm going to be 63 in a few months. And, I sometimes have to look at my driver's license. I had somebody who actually said, I want to see your driver's license.
Well, I know. Yeah.
I felt great. And, but part of it is, again, being appreciative of what we have each and every day. And being really aware of what beliefs you continue to repeat over and over and over again, because it's all about affirmations. Affirmations can work in the negative or they can work in the positive. And if you say, I'm too old, there's no opportunity, women as we get older, life is over, and on, you need to change your language patterns. You need to change the people you hang out with. You need to change basically the playgrounds you go to, and put yourself into environments where you actually are pushing yourself to go beyond where you thought you could go. One of the reasons I actually started Passion for Thriving is it's primarily for older women who they don't want to settle for the status quo. They really want a more juicy life, if you will, on every single level. It's like financially, spiritually, emotionally, in their relationships, in all different, in contribution. And one of the quickest ways to get outside of our self-defeating behaviors is to be of service to other people. That's, you know, age-old wisdom, is to truly be of service to other people.
Excellent.
And for me, like, one of the reasons I decided to do a marathon at the age of 61, one, I'm crazy, I guess, but I wanted to stretch myself, and I wanted to see what I was capable of. And I hold the distinction of being the very last person in for that particular marathon. I will forever hold that distinction. I'm very proud of it. But what I realized was I had a coach, and the coach told me 3 things to do. I paid attention to one. I didn't do all 3. And it made me realize that when I get frustrated with people who I coach that don't take the recommendations, and then they say, well, this didn't work. It wasn't me that was at fault, it was them. Just like with my coach, it wasn't her that was at fault. She gave me the wisdom. She gave me the information. It was up to me what I did with it. So what I decided is, the day that I did the marathon, I said, I'll never do another one. The next day I was saying, okay, I'm signing up for next year's marathon because I have to at least improve from what I did last year, and I have to give it 100%. So I think a lot of it has to do with, are you giving 100%? Are you being honest about what you are and are not doing? And really, are you tired of holding on to the stories that are holding you back? Because a lot of it is, people are so attached to their stories that they don't, if they let go of the story, they don't know what they're going to do. But what you want to do is surround yourself with people who tell better stories.
That's right. I love that. I love that. Okay. And so what was your training like for this marathon?
Intense.
Okay.
Pretty intense. You know, actually, one of the first things I did is I picked up every book I could get my hands on to do with how to train for a marathon. I talked to other people. When I first started, I was a power walker. I wasn't a runner, and I swore I would never run. And that lasted about a year, because the first race I did power walk, and the second race I ran part and power walked a portion of it. And I'm going to do a third one, but this next one is only going to be a half marathon. And that one I will run the whole way. But what I did is I got as much information as I possibly could get on the subject of how do you go from never having done a marathon before to doing a marathon. I got a coach that I didn't listen to, which I don't recommend that. I recommend getting a coach, but not listening to them. And I started showing up for smaller races. I did 5Ks, I did 10Ks, I did a couple of halves, but really building up to it, I trained every day where I would go out and actually put more distance on. I made sure that I had the right gear, because it's not just a matter of getting out and running. It's a matter of, do you have the right shoes? Do you have the right socks? I mean, it gets down to even having the appropriate socks. Do you have like a headlamp if you're going to run in dark weather? Do you have a headlamp so people can see you? Do you have the right headgear? Do you have the right body gear? There's a number of factors. And so what I did is I built into it. I didn't do what I've done in the past, which is in the past, I would decide I was going to do something and go buy everything I needed to do that thing, and then I'd give up after a week or two. What I did is I tested myself, and I had milestones. And if I hit that milestone, then I would invest more, and then I would invest more. And this is what I actually advise to clients. It's like, don't go from 0 to 100 without anything in between. Have those milestones of success so that you feel like you're accomplishing something, and that allows you to go to the next level.
Right. Just kind of building and have like those
Absolutely.
systematic successes rather than trying to do everything at once and then getting frustrated and giving up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why around the first of the year, a lot of people set resolutions, but within a very short period of time, the majority of people will have given up on their resolution because they're not fully committed. In order to make a change in life, you have to want what you're saying you want more than not wanting it. So you have to be willing to go through whatever the challenges are, whatever the obstacles are, whatever the pain is, to get to that end result more than you don't want it.
There you go. And were there any special precautions that you needed to take, as far as maybe even flexibility, strength training, any of those kinds of things?
Yes. Yeah, and that's a great question. And actually, that was the area that I didn't listen to my trainer on. It's like, oh, you should do more stretching and you should do some resistance training. And it's interesting because in my 30s, I actually was very into bodybuilding and I was going to compete. And that was, it was in my right around 31, 32. I was fairly new to recovery. And so steroids were not an option, even though I had a trainer who wanted me to do steroids and said, you will never win unless you do the steroids. And I said, I can't do the steroids. And so we kind of went our separate ways and I continued to bodybuild. And so I had that foundation of bodybuilding. And when I got into the training for the marathon, my trainer said, you need to do resistance training. But I resisted doing that. I didn't do it. And it took me a year to incorporate that. And now I do resistance training. I look at what I eat. I look at what I'm drinking as far as enough fluids and having electrolytes. The stretching is really important, but the greatest number of injuries come from people not stretching before they do a run. And so, yes, all of those factors. And that's like anything in life. There's going to be more than the obvious that we have to do. There's all the little subtleties that go into an end result.
Absolutely. And I love that. Stretching and strength training, the most overlooked components of fitness. Love it. And especially for runners, they just don't realize how many imbalances they get in range of motion. Don't get me started, but I love it. So you were a testament to all of that. Love
I'd love to hear more, actually. So let me ask you a few questions.
I know, right? Let's turn the tables. But that's my thing. Well, even with running, and I always laugh. People always laugh when I tell them this. I said, "But okay, when you think about running a race or running a marathon, how many people do you know that get injured with cardiovascular injuries? Not very many. People are always getting musculoskeletal injuries." And I was like, it's because they're not strong enough and their range of motion isn't good enough with their flexibility and their low back. So anyway, and hydration, that's a big one because our tissue.
Oh, the hydration is huge.
Yeah.
I can tell. Yeah, I can tell when I don't have, if I don't do electrolytes, then I can really tell when I'm doing a longer run where I get cramps in my legs. And I know, this is the interesting thing is we often know what the solution is to something, and yet we keep looking for another answer when the answer is right in front of us. It's very simple, and it's like, but I don't want to do that. It's like, well, get over it and do it. You need to do it if you say you want an end result. But yeah, the strength training is so important. The stretching is so important. And who you surround yourself with. I remember the very first race that I did. This was before I did the marathon. It was a 5K race. And I was so intimidated. I went there, and this is when I was a bit heavier, and there were a lot of racers and runners and young people. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't belong here. And I wanted to leave. And I thought, no, you need to stay here. You need to just be with the process. And I think at that time I was doing about a 17-minute mile. I am not a fast runner by any stretch. Now on a good day, I'll do an 11.5-minute mile. But, so I'm never going to be like a 7-minute mile person. And I know that, and I'm fine with that. But I remember thinking, I don't belong here. And there was that little voice in my head trying to talk me out of doing what I really, in my heart of hearts, wanted to do. And I stuck with it. And it's funny because the race that I just did a few days ago in 28-degree weather, that was the annual race of what I did a couple of years ago. And it was so interesting because I went in there and I owned it, and I felt good, and I was talking to people. I saw people that I'd seen at other races, and I belonged. And one of the things that I encourage people to do is, if you're in a place of discomfort, just walk through that. Stay with it. Because it's like at Katarina's event. Those people that have never spoken before, they probably walked in thinking, oh my gosh, there's going to be people who have more knowledge than me. I don't belong here, and on and on and on. Well, wherever we go, there's always going to be people with more knowledge. There's going to be people with less knowledge. And if we let that stop us, then we're never going to find out what our greatness is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I was one of those people that, because I had no clue, I didn't even know what I was getting into. I just kind of showed up. But, by the end of the weekend, I was like, oh, I think I can do this. And, and I signed on for more with Katarina, and I'll be at her next
event. Good for you. Good
yeah.
for you.
So it's just like, well, I'm going to keep doing this. All I can do is improve. I'm at the bottom right now. The only way to go is butt up, right? All I could do.
Well, and you know, I have to say that I was very impressed with her knowledge. I was very impressed with the way that she trained people, and her true, genuine caring for people. That came through. And I just want to acknowledge that you made a great choice to continue on with her.
Yeah.
You know, I've been around the industry for many years, and I used to be years ago, I was the president of the Utah chapter of the National Speakers Association. I, at one point, was on the road about 3 weeks out of the month when I was doing a lot of training in other states, and I actually did Canada and Europe. So I've been around the block a few times, and I know quality when I see it. She's definitely quality, so you made a great choice.
Yes, and it's just like I'll plug her some more. You know, I'm trying to get friends to show up to this because I told them, you know, 1 month with her, and I went from 0 clients to 10. And just
Wow.
1 month, I was able to get people to, and so I mean, what she's saying is true, and it was uncomfortable for me. And I even told her yesterday when we were talking, I said, you know, you have me thinking about things I'd never even thought about. This was out of the realm of my own possibility.
Right.
And that's
Right.
what you need to be around. You need to be around people who will help you raise your own expectations.
Absolutely. You know, and that applies, Geneva, to just about anything we do in life. Whatever you want to improve on, find somebody who's doing it. And that's, I think, a real key to success is finding people who have really walked the path that you want to walk. Because it's all very fine if somebody reads, like, okay, you're a health and nutrition expert, and there are people out there, they read one book and they call themselves an expert. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
You want to surround yourself with the people that really know their stuff. And like you say, they're going to raise you up. Very, very important.
Yeah, and especially this stuff about, I mean, I've gone to some things where people have read a book. You could tell that because we all read the same book, and they're just,
Yeah.
you know, and it's now they're the expert regurgitating the book. So, so what about your nutrition? Can you tell us a little bit about your nutrition and healthy choices that you're making?
Well, you know, I have to say, if there's one area in my life that I have challenges with, it is my nutrition. And so for me, it's in some ways, it's very black and white, because I have given up sugar.
Good.
For the most part, I've given up breads and pastas, but that's, you know, it's interesting because that kind of stuff can sneak up on you. So when I'm eating really, really healthy, I love to start my day with juicing, like fresh juicing. And I include carrots, apples, lemons, cucumbers, anything that I can find in my refrigerator that's going to be just something that is a nice addition. I start with a juice. I also do blended drinks. I love those. And I really try to stay away from garbage food. Like I can't even remember the last time I went to a fast food. I just don't do it anymore. And I used to live on fast food. I don't eat donuts. And at one point, I was the kind of person that if I had one donut, I had to have 3 boxes of donuts. It wasn't just one. I tend to have a very extreme personality. And it's interesting because most of us do have extreme personalities. Some of us admit it and some of us don't. Right. And we justify behavior. So for me, I look at my hydration. I look at getting fruits and vegetables in my system. If I'm going to do meats, I try to do lean meats, and I try to do organic meats as much as possible, because I want to stay away from the steroids and the antibiotics and all that kind of stuff that unfortunately go into our foods quite a bit nowadays.
Absolutely. I do believe it starts with food. I definitely believe that. Like even
Absolutely.
just like some of our joint problems, our tissue problems, it starts with food. So that is awesome. And so this isn't really shifting gears, but you are an entrepreneur, author, product creation specialist, and business owner. How do you find the time to train? Because a lot of my clientele are people who are busy professionals, right? And they're on the road, they're doing this, they have these projects, they're doing this and that. How did you find the time?
I make it.
There you go.
I mean, you know, I can come up with some fancy dancy answer, but the reality is I schedule it in, and it's what I do first thing in the morning. The thing I really don't like about the time change is it takes longer for me to get outside because of the, you know, I want to run when it's safe, but I don't come up with excuses because I know what it's like to live a life full of excuses. And the reality is I know once I get out there and I start running, I'm going to feel so much better, and I'm actually going to have more focus. My oxygen will be better. And so a few things that I love to do on a daily basis. I love to get some kind of exercising, and usually it's running. And I also like to meditate, and I like to pray. Those are the things that really are the foundation of my days. And what I have found is if I don't do my running first thing in the morning, if I say I'm going to do it in the afternoon, even if I do it in the afternoon, I don't have as much energy. And so I'm doing myself a disservice. And the thing I would say for the people that use time as an excuse is to think about the outcome that you really want. What is the feeling that you want in your day? What is the feeling you want in your life? And if you do X, which X would be exercise, if you do that, how are you going to feel for the rest of the day? And even if it's 15 or 20 minutes, but just getting out and doing some kind of movement.
Excellent. Excellent. So true, because I always tease my clients and I say, well, you'll feel a lot more creative and a lot more productive once you do your exercise, right? And you don't want to be that person that can't work and can't do what you love to do because you're
Absolutely.
sick, or you're out down for the count, because you fell down outside of pizza.
Well, it's pretty when you look at what's happening within our healthcare system. Healthcare costs have gotten out of control. Premiums, yeah, it's obscene what has happened with our healthcare. And yet, if you look at how many people have self-imposed illnesses, and I'm not saying we bring everything on ourselves, but we have to get pretty honest and say, okay, what about my health am I truly responsible for? And it was shortly after my mother died 5 years ago, I went for an exam, and my doctor said, okay, here's the deal. You either drop some weight and start exercising, or I'm putting you on meds. It's your choice. She goes, because you're a walking heart attack, you're a walking stroke, you're not a kid anymore, and you need to be responsible for your health. And that was kind of a wake-up call of like, oh, okay, I really do need to take some responsibility here, because when you look at the obesity epidemic that we have, and it's filtered down to children can't be really held responsible for the fact that at the age of 5 or 6 or 7, they're already obese. The parents have to take some accountability and responsibility. And, it's a very systemic problem. It just goes so deep that God bless Michelle Obama for trying to do something about it. I mean, she got a lot of flack for doing that, but I have so much respect for her that she had an initiative and she really stuck with it. And I think if more people would take responsibility for what they put in their mouth, how much exercise they have, they wouldn't be at the doctor so much. And again, I got to see what bad health did to my mother. I mean, she was addicted to going to the doctors. That was part of her social life, unfortunately, and it is for a lot of elderly people.
Yeah, I've read about that, where that's it becomes part of their identity,
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
be sick and not feeling good and not thriving. Yeah, no, and I absolutely agree. I couldn't believe it last night during her interview. Mrs. Obama said that people complained because she was trying to make healthier food. Well, anyway, people will complain about anything, but
Absolutely.
I couldn't.
I have so much respect for her and President Obama, because it would be interesting to find out what really went on behind closed doors, the amount of challenge that they both dealt with from things that occurred that we know nothing about. The fact that first African-American president, there were challenges. And they handled it with so much dignity and so much, if you will, appropriate pride. And I give them so much credit for what they were able to accomplish to shift the mindset of a lot of people.
Right.
And with such dignity.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. I was floored when I thought, who can complain about, someone's trying to say that we should feed our children healthier lunches and everything like that, because I think that goes on to, play a role in their self-esteem, how they're able to learn in school, their attention, all of these different things. I said, well, you know what? People just complain about anything at that point.
Absolutely. Well, and I really want to touch on that as we get older too, when we don't have the energy to go out and do the fun things that we can do in life. During the summer, here's, kind of a regular week for me. It's like, okay, I run my business, but I go kayaking, I go hiking, I go running, I participate in races. I have the energy, and I can't tell you how great that feels. I don't want to be one of those statistics of people that died of a heart attack because I was obesely overweight and I ate like crap and I didn't exercise. I don't want to be one of those people. I want to be an example of what is possible. And that's really, in many ways, what drives me, because I think that we have much more potential than we give ourselves credit for.
Absolutely. I like that. And that's what I always tell clients, is that you want to think about training for life, right? If you like to travel, then you need to be strong enough to carry, I know this sounds ridiculous, but to carry your suitcase in the airport, or to be able to climb the stairs, and so that, you can go and do fun things. I once had a client who said his goal was to be in shape so he could go on vacation, so he could do fun things with everybody else and not get left behind. And I thought,
Yeah,
now that is a good goal, right? To enjoy your
absolutely.
life. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yes. Okay. And so, talking about women and aging, how can women make aging a positive experience?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is quit buying into the fact that as we get older, we're not capable of doing things. I was talking with a woman the other day who, she was talking about her ailments and this and that. And I said, well, how old are you? She goes, oh, darling, I'm much older than you. And I said, how old are you? She goes, I'm 63 years old. I said, well, I'm a few months behind you. And she goes, you've got to be kidding. And I said, absolutely not. And I said, I don't buy into what you're saying here at all. I don't think that you have to live like that. And she goes, well, I like my sweets too much, and I like my booze too much, and I like this too much. And it's like, okay, you've made choices.
Mm-hmm.
You've made choices. So it really goes back to whatever choices that we make.
Mm-hmm.
And it also has to do with who we surround ourselves with. One of the things I love doing is finding women that are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s who are out there just crushing it and doing amazing things. I had a conversation with one woman, Ruth Heydrich, who's 85 or 86 years old. She has done the Ironman several times over. She's done triathlons. She still does marathons. And she said, let me tell you the secret to coming in first. She said, get old and don't die. I love it. But she's actually, yeah, it's like, okay. And then there's another woman, Wendy Ida, that at one point, Wendy was 100 pounds overweight. Mm-hmm. And she escaped an abusive relationship. And it was a friend of hers who said, why don't you come to the gym with me? And he started her on this path of health and fitness. She now does bodybuilding in her 60s. She's written a book on it. She motivates women to get in better shape. And, so I think a lot of it has to do with who we look to as possibilities and role models. And not to look at, again, the status quo and say, well, that's how, I just have to admit to the fact that's how it is. No, that's not how it is. There are plenty of examples of women who are out there doing amazing things, women we never even hear of. It's just like they're out doing it. They're living their lives.
Absolutely. Well, I remember when you told me that you did your first, I thought, well, I don't think she's that old. But, I didn't believe
Here, let me pull out my driver's license.
I know. I thought, what? She's not old. But, and I absolutely agree. I think it's all, it's mindset matters most, right? So, I mean, if you're in that mindset of, oh, I'm old and tired and all that good stuff, then that's the way you will act. And I guess this would go along with it, that how can women continue to live a passionate and thriving life as they age? Like, what are some tangible things that they can do? Looking to other people who are actually out crushing it. And then, like, what other things can they do as they get older?
One is figure out what you enjoy doing, and then give yourself permission to do it.
Yes.
Like, when I first started kayaking, at first I didn't think I was going to enjoy it. And once I did it, it was like, oh my gosh, this is a blast. And now giving myself permission to do more of that. So I think it's giving yourself permission to do what you enjoy doing, or at least exploring it. Another one, as we've talked about, is surrounding yourself with people who are doing it. Go look for environments where you're going to find, whether it be a hiking club, whether it be a book reading club, whether it be I have one friend who's very into quilting, and she loves to quilt. That's her passion. And she comes and brings these beautiful quilts and shows me. I have no interest in quilting, but I can appreciate her passion. And so whatever it is, find your passion and give yourself permission to do a little bit of that every single day or every week, but it's up to you. Nobody's going to give you that permission. And if you're waiting for someone to wave a magic wand and say, okay, now you have permission, you're going to be waiting until the day you die.
Absolutely. And give yourself, I love that. Give yourself permission to enjoy it and do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Take those limits off. That is great. And so how can people connect with you on social media or find out what you're doing? Because I'm always about.
There's a few ways. Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, if they want to know the business side of what I'm doing, powerupforprofits.com is my website, powerupforprofits.com. And on social media, if they key in Kathleen Gage or Power Up for Profits, they'll find a whole bunch of stuff. And then for more on the lines of older women who want to really live with passion, it's passionforthriving.com is the blog. And all my social network stuff is hooked up to that. Instagram is one that I'm spending a lot of time on. So instagram.com/passionforthriving. And you'll see some fun things there.
Absolutely. And that's a place, ladies, where you can go and actually see someone with a passion and for thriving in life, right? And that you can start to challenge your own self-limiting beliefs and all of that kind of thing and choose to see something different. That's right. It's time
Absolutely. And one passion we didn't even talk about that I have is my passion for rescue animals.
Please, we love animals. Please take some time to talk about that.
Oh my gosh. Well, we have 3 horses, my wife and I, we have 3 horses, 3 dogs, and we have a cat, and most of them are rescues. And we donate to animal rescues. And I have a little Shih Tzu dog who turns out she was a breeder dog. And when she found her way to our doorstep, we thought she'd be dead within a few days because in really bad shape. She had tumors all over her belly. So I decided to do a fundraiser for her to get the surgery to remove the tumors and get some eye work done and dental work because she was a complete mess. And as a result of me being very visible around my love for animals, I now speak in the animal industry. I'm a keynoter at a big conference coming up in Myrtle Beach in June. And one of the things that I know to be true is if you're just yourself around what your passions are, amazing opportunities open up. So with animals, it's like I just have such a passion for helping the underdog, if you will. And as a result, we have a full house of animals, and one happens to be a pit bull, one's a Shih Tzu, the other one's a terrier mix, then we have 3 horses. And again, most of them are rescues.
And, just finding something that you truly believe in, a cause that you truly believe in, and serving others. I mean, I think that really ups the passion for thriving in your life, is because you actually have purpose and you have a mission and you have something that you're going to go and, accomplish and have impact with. So that's great. And we love animals.
Yay. Well, that's a kind of prerequisite if I'm going to let a client hire me. It's like, how do you feel about animals? And if they say, oh, I love animals, okay, you can hire me. If they say, I don't like animals, it's like, well, I have nothing to talk to you about.
Yeah, no, we love, and the rescues, and people, please do not go and to breeders, go and rescue animals. Rescue dogs. I mean, that's my thing. Go and rescue dogs. I don't have a dog yet, but I have someone who I've promised that when I'm ready to get a dog, that I will go to the rescue. I already have my rescue pick.
Yeah, please do, because it's like the whole issue of backyard breeders and all that. That's what causes part of the problem. And another thing that people can do, if you can't rescue at this point in time, if you can't adopt, you can do foster care, or you can go to the Humane Society and you can walk the dogs, you can help clean the kennels. I mean, there's plenty of opportunity to serve when it comes to the animals. And a big one tying into passion, I think what's really a determining factor is just make a decision to have fun every day. Like when I go to the grocery store, part of my whole mission when I go to the grocery store, besides getting groceries, is when I'm in line and I see that the clerk is just by rote doing the checkout. I'm going to do something to break their state. I'm going to do something to make them laugh. I'm going to do something to get them present. And I've actually done that where they've been so automatic in what they're doing and kind of robotic. And I said, wait a minute, stop. I said, get really present. I said, look at me. I want you to look at me. I'm a customer. I want you to make me feel like I'm important today because I'm going to make you feel important. And they're like, who are you? Why are you doing this? I said, I want you to remember this experience because this is the moment of power. And so I do a mini conversation and a mini motivational talk with them because I think oftentimes we do things by just automatic behaviors and we don't live in the moment.
Right.
We're just so disconnected from what we're doing instead of like, boom, I'm fully present.
Right. The power of now, like now is all you have.
Absolutely.
So yeah, absolutely. And that's
Well,
great.
Eckhart Tolle said so. Have you read
That's
his
right.
Power of Now? Absolutely.
One of my favorite, I read the book this year. It has been life-changing. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It's one that I've planned to read at least once every year.
Yeah, it's a good book. It's a good
Yes.
book.
Excellent. So
All right.
thank you for taking the time today. This is going to be a really great conversation for my ladies to listen to. And this has been a great experience for me as well. Because again, I want to be around people who are doing more, wanting to be more, and have a passion for life and not just existing.
I appreciate that, and I encourage everybody, just go out there and live large. Like Michelle Obama said last night, she goes, it was something to the effect of, I decided that I was just going to live full out. Nothing was going to stop her. And, you know, use her as an example of what is possible, because against all odds, look at where she is, look at the impact that she's had, and think in terms of what's the impact that you have on people. And as I believe it's Tony Robbins says, your life is either a warning of what not to do or the inspiration of what is possible. So go out and be an inspiration.
What a beautiful message, and what a wonderful way to end this portion of the interview. So thank you so much, and connect with Kathleen on social media and her sites, thrivingforpassion.com, power up.
Passion for thriving.
Passion for thriving. Power up profits. So yes, please, and connect on Instagram as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So I'm going to stop the recording. Good.
Okay.